the NBA draft lottery, the Victor Wembenyama sweepstakes. We thought Zion was a big deal, and it was a Zion mania coming into the NBA draft was a huge deal. You know, we compared it. I at least compared it to when Patrick Ewing came out in the draft and the Knicks got the number one pick. Like that's how big of a deal Zion was. I compared it to that. To me, Victor Wembanyama, this is like Tim Duncan 2.0, where you got teams tanking for him. Who's gonna go out here and end up with this number one pick tomorrow, whether it be the Detroit Pistons, the Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs, Charlotte Hornets, Portland Trail Blazers, Orlando Magic, Indiana Pacers, Wizards, Utah Jazz, Dallas Mavericks are in there, the Chicago Bulls, Oklahoma City, and the Toronto Raptors and the Pelicans. Obviously, those teams that I mentioned earlier are the ones with the highest odds, but we do know that in this new lottery system, that just because you have the worst record, not only does it not mean that you're going to end up with the number one pick, it could mean that you end up with the 10th pick or something like that. So it's really been working to discourage tanking to the point. I mean, these teams that are bad are just bad. Like they're not. Yeah, you could in a sense they're purposely tanking, but it's not like years past where people are really like holding out to try and get this pick because it's not the likelihood of it happening is not as solid as it used to be. Um, who do you think? What situation would be best for Victor Wembanyama to jump in? I mean, the Houston Rockets have a ton of young talent. There's the rumors out there that Harden might return to Houston. The San Antonio Spurs, you can't go wrong with playing for Greg Popovich. And I mean, like I said, it's almost like deja vu with the Spurs being in position to get the number one pick like they did so many years ago and end up with a Tim Duncan. And it's like, man, you can end up with Victor Wembanyama. I'm gonna be honest with you. I would love to see him in Texas. I live out here. I think the best situation for him might be in San Antonio because there's not a better coach that realistically out of this list that he's going to get to play for than Greg Popovich. If he ends up in Houston, that'd be a great situation for him too. He's going to be playing for Ime Udoka. Regardless of what he did off the court, we can all agree Ime Udoka is a fantastic coach. And he's got a bunch of young talent surrounding him. So I mean, there's that, and then Detroit. You could put Detroit on the board for the same. Detroit doesn't have a head coach yet, right? They're still searching for that.
Yeah, I don't think they have a head coach yet.
So the coaching is going to be in question until there's actually a name to talk about there. But again, similar to Houston, you've got a ton of young talent around you. But for me, I think I'm gonna go with San Antonio just off of the history and the coaching.
I think I think San Antonio would be the best spot for him development wise, like you said, history, coaching, just what they've shown to be able to develop players. I think would probably be the best spot for him development wise. Like you said, you can look at it as another Tim Duncan situation with Greg Popovich still being there, and obviously we know the great coach that he is. The players they have developed over the years. I think Houston would be the best spot for him on being able to have an impact, but be on a team that may be ready to make that next jump, whether it's getting to the playoffs or just win more games. I think you go to San Antonio, they're not probably there where it's like maybe next year they can be in the playoffs. I think Houston, you get him over there. They got Udoka over there, like you say. You think he's a great coach. You got Jalen Green. You got the talent that's there. I think you add him to Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. I think those guys are, especially with Udoka coming over there, probably getting those guys to lock in and maybe fix some of the things that we heard that's going on over there, the kind of young, maybe a little out of control type of things that we've been hearing over there. So I think that would be the best spot for him for where it's like I can have an impact and still maybe be on a team where it's like we can, I don't want to say go for it, but we can make that next step right now where we're kind of ready to maybe not be a lottery team next year. I guess to say they have the most talent around him type of thing. Uh, I think Detroit is interesting because obviously Troy Weaver over there, we know what he can do, and I think his impact has been shown a lot since he's kind of been over there. The talent he's been able to kind of get over there. But they have Jalen Durant, they have Wiseman. I think they're kind of loaded at that guard spot, and obviously we think Wembenyama probably has the higher upside than all those guys. So maybe you take the best player available and figure the rest of it out. But they're kind of stacked in the front court, so.
I don't care who they got. It's like my bad. When we were talking about like Harden and KPJ, and you were like, I like KPJ, but how you gonna take KPJ over Harden? I don't care who. Those are all nice players. I'm taking Victor Wembenyama over all of them.
Right, and they have some talent over there. So obviously, number one pick Kate Cunningham a few years ago, Jalen Ivey last year. You bring Wembenyama into that. That could be a nice spot for him. Like we said, we don't know what coach would be there. And then they could probably trade some of those guys, maybe get some talent back if you get him. So Detroit won't be too bad now. I think that's another team kind of where they're like Houston. They kind of just got to start putting it together. And if you add him to that, maybe they could be a play-in team next year. I think a spot I would like to see him go to the most out of everything you just said, I'd like to see him go to Charlotte. I think LaMelo needs that him and LaMelo together. Obviously, LaMelo being a great passer. I think out of all those spots, LaMelo would be the best point guard, passing-wise, that he would play with. I think Charlotte needs that. Obviously, getting him will give you that 1-2 punch with him and LaMelo. I think Charlotte needs that kind of generational talent to kind of finally get them over the hump. Obviously, things haven't been going Jordan's way since he's gotten the team, and they made the playoffs a couple times, and it's kind of been a real up and down. But I think him being in Charlotte, you team him up with him and LaMelo, I think that gives you the 1-2 punch for the next 10, 15 years. You got him with a great passer, someone that's going to be able to get him the ball, hit him in transition. That pick and roll should be kind of deadly because he can pop, he can roll, he can catch lobs. So I think him and LaMelo, I think, would be the best kind of 1-2 duo. And I think part of it is I want to see Charlotte I think Charlotte needs the most help talent-wise, and I think Charlotte can use him to make that impact and kind of get their franchise back on track. Like those other teams, I think will be fine. Like we were saying, they got talent. You got Jalen Green. You got those other players. So I think the other places would be fine. I think Charlotte needs him the most. They need someone to put next to LaMelo, and they need someone to kind of come in, get people back in their seats, and get that thing back rolling again, and get the team back on track.
I didn't think about that at all. I might have to back you on that one. If you pair LaMelo Ball up with Victor Wembanyama, that is a team. I feel very confident saying this. You pair those two up, that is a team that I believe can compete for a championship in the next 5 years. Obviously, they're going to have their growing pains and things like that, but that is a combination I like a lot. I mean, LaMelo, he's a lot better passer than we expected him to be coming into the league, and then he's a heck of a scorer. He's definitely the best of the three brothers. You know, you work around putting the talent together around them. Obviously, they got some other pieces over there that are pretty nice, but yeah, I think I might have to go with you on that one. And again, like I said earlier, with the new draft lottery system, that's not a far-fetched idea. You know, like Charlotte is entrenched at the 4 spot, so they got a 12.5% chance, just a little under the top 3 teams to end up with that 1 pick. But like I said, as we've seen in the past, it absolutely can happen. I don't even think, like the year Ja got drafted, Memphis's lottery chances were not as high as like a top 3 pick would expect you to be, and they ended up in that spot. So definitely something to look out for. For me, I think I'm gonna go with, as far as situations that would be good for him, but teams that would need him. You just sold me on Charlotte, and I think San Antonio is gonna be another team that would need him. Like Houston's got a ton of nice players over there and draft picks or whatnot. They'll be okay. Obviously, you want that Wembanyama spot, but they'll be okay. Same with Detroit. But yeah, top 2 for me is gonna have to be Charlotte and San Antonio now, for sure.
Yeah, I actually back you on that San Antonio one. Out of the teams we said, they're the one who is in desperate need of any type of talent. So, like I said, and he'll be in a good spot where he'll develop really well. I just like him in Charlotte because you already have that passing point guard. So you think about that 1-2 punch that can be dynamic for a little while now. And then for me, there you just surround those guys with a whole bunch of 3-and-D players, maybe a couple of veteran 3-and-D players. I think you guys got something going forward. You think, like I said, that pick and roll with those two. You got those other guys stretching the court and playing defense. I think, LaMelo's passing ability. I think it'd be perfect for Charlotte and kind of what they can do going forward as a team. Like I said, I think that can make them a play-in team. You think this year, before LaMelo Ball got hurt this year and Miles Bridges being out, they were kind of a play-in team before. So you add that, and then, like I said, you just add the right pieces around them. That's a team that, like you said, can maybe compete for a championship in a few years. You just got to keep surrounding them with the right pieces.
You know what would be the biggest headline? Stopper for sure? Imagine if Portland ended up with the number 1 pick. Portland ends up with the number 1 pick. Everything that we've said about Dame going somewhere this summer is gone. I think that if they end up with the number 1 pick, we're not even talking about Dame playing anywhere else outside of Portland.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, he's still going to be a young guy who has to come in and learn. And we've seen how it can be with maybe some of these taller guys. But if he maximizes his potential, like a lot of people think, then yeah, definitely. I think the Portland Trailblazers, you hold on to Dame and you ride that thing. I think that it kind of is on the same thing as the LaMelo Ball thing. Now you got that 1-2 punch. You just got to surround those guys with the right pieces, and I think you'll be good. If you think about it, you got Jeremy Grant over there already, kind of 3-and-D.
Shaden Sharp
over there. Shaden Sharp. So you got some talent over there. You got some pieces. So I wouldn't be mad at that. I think if Orlando moves up a little bit too, that'd be nice. Obviously.
What's going on over there, man? How many? That's like I'm talking about the Houston Rockets needing to get out of the lottery. Orlando's got to get out the lottery. I think it's time for them to start competing.
I think if these picks don't jump up, you maybe consider trading those picks for more veteran help around those guys. But you think about you add Wembenyama to what they got going on there, man. That's a lot of talent they got there. Obviously, everyone's not going to be able to make it. Everyone's not going to be able to play. But it leaves you with a lot of talent and a lot of options. So I think, like you said, it's time for them to maybe start trading picks to add that veteran help so you can start winning now. But you wait until after the odds come out because you might get that number 1 pick. You got a whole bunch of talent. You think Markelle Fultz, who ended the season playing well, he's looked like he's back. You got obviously the Rookie of the Year, Franz Wagner, who played really well these last 2 years. It's a lot of talent.
Cole Anthony, a lot of talent over there for sure. So yeah, man, be on the lookout for that. I'll definitely be tuned in. That's going to be right before the Western Conference Finals Game 1. Definitely be tuned in for that because that one's going to be fun to watch. And like I said, I usually don't get glued to the draft lottery, but so often. Like I was tuned in when it was Zion Mania, and this is going to be just up there with that. So definitely tune into that if you can, especially if your team's going to be in the running for a player like this. Even if you end up with a top 3 pick, you're good. You know, Scoot Henderson on the board. We were just talking about what's his name from Alabama? Brandon Miller. You know, wings winning this league. So that's going to be a big one. And we'll definitely have a lot more talk about the draft next week once we get past who's where and everything like that and what's going to happen. But, you know, definitely be tuned into that.